Haha, audio. Sorry about that. This is my first time ever casting. Welcome to one viewer that I have right now. Thanks for coming today. I'm going to wait for a couple more people to jump on here maybe and see what can happen. So if you just hold tight for a moment, you can watch this nifty animation if you want. This will be my holding screen for now. But just as we wait for a couple more people to jump in. Before I start. Let's see if I can do this. So hopefully a couple more people will join us. I don't know how many more will jump on. But I'm going to be talking about my Patreon, Blaze in the Dark map making today. So, since you're the only person watching, whoever you are, feel free to send me a comment if you want me to talk about something that you want to know about. Yeah. And if you don't know what my Patreon is, you can check it out. Thank you. So, since you're watching, I might as well just start playing around here in Photoshop, showing you some things that I do when I make the maps, and hopefully more people will jump in and join us, and I'll see in a little bit, and I'll start talking more about it. This is the newest map that I'm creating. I guess you should be able to see it. Here you go. So a sketch I did the other day for that particular drawing, the spirit trap. So I start out with pencil and pen, draw a bunch of details in, and then bring it into Photoshop to wait for the map to see the finished piece, but I think the actual river eel thing came out pretty neat. There's a kind of a first or second version, and then more of the final version there. So I can jump back. How about now? Jeez, Ryan. What is wrong with you? Alright, well, anyway, back to the map making. Sorry if there was a bunch of feedback for like the last 20 minutes. That's not so good. So I have the vault put together here, and this is sort of a little fancy storage area for their stuff. I have this little chest that I made that I'm gonna colorize, make it the color of a treasure chest, I guess. Seems like a wise move. Again, like brass fittings or sort of straps I think can go on here. Like I said, I create another layer on top of the overlay on the underneath. That makes sense. And colorize that. So, you know, this is a nice vault where they keep stuff, so I think I kind of always associate the gold, coppery colors with a little bit more expensive stuff. Let's put like a couple cool little rivets in there that are maybe gray color. There we go. In there, nope. Right. So we've got ourselves a little chest there. Let's turn that inner shadow on again. Put all your valuables in this thing and come back and get them after the barkeeper, you know, the tavern owner has gone through all your stuff. I made this little sort of locked up book. Fancy book, as I call it here, the name. As you know, fancy books, it's something you find out in the wastes. You should probably just open it and start reading out of it out loud. It's probably good for everybody. Your adventures, why not? Inner shadow again, give it a little depth. Yeah, right, that's fine. Tiny, tiny one. And we will colorize this lock. That wonderful copper color again. Maybe this is actually gold though, since it is fancy. So I try to color things with the actual color I'm going to use, but if I need to, I can go in and actually do a layer style on this as well, which is helpful in case, you know, we decide like, well, that's not quite the gold that I want. Maybe gold is a little more goldish, which I think that's better. It pops a little bit more. So just go back there and you can change those. But I try and do it the color that I think it should be to begin with. Just add a little couple sort of shadow details here for the book. Give it a little depth. Maybe the edge here. So this is, you know, really getting into the nitty-gritty of making these maps and all the little objects and putting them in place. You know, eventually it'll have the paper texture and it'll be black and white for some and color for others. So I have a little adjustment layer up here that has that. It's off-center because, as I said earlier, there's going to be the boat launch coming out of the side here with a little dock and a boat that I'll draw. Well, actually, I'll jump into that now, and I'll show you guys just the sketching that I do. Trying jump back to my camera, and I hope you guys will be able to see this pretty good. Um, so I use mainly just like pencil, HB, nothing too dark, easy to erase. If you don't know what HB is, that's like refers to the hardness of the pencil. So it's not that dark. Like you use a 2B pencil to take a test back in the day, or it's a little darker than this. Standard pencil is 2B. This is HB. I think it goes up to 8, and B goes up to 8 for how hard and soft it is. And I use microns, mostly these little tiny points. This is an 005 micron. And I didn't have an 01 one day, so I bought a graphics one, which is a little bit bigger. This is an 01. So I'll use this for larger sort of outlining, and then I'll use this smaller one for details. So let me see if I can kind of position you guys a bit to be able to see this. Just use a standard sketchbook for a lot of this stuff. You can see the this is the overlay of the tavern, the roof one for the $5 level on the Patreon. This is the one that they get, and I'll take this and I'll put it into the larger Duskfall map, so you can kind of see the surrounding buildings. And I think on this, like the river is sort of over here. The door over to the tavern is here. The stairs you were looking at are right here. The basement exit door is here. I think the bar is like right here. And then I was sort of playing with some different brick textures. I'll probably put it outside here for the road. But what I want to do is sort of draw out that exit. And sometimes, you know, I'll start with a pencil and draw a little bit. I don't always do that. Sometimes I'll just dive in and be like, I don't know, it'll get close enough to what I need. So let's see. There's gonna be a dock. I think I might just dive in and start doing it. I like doing rock. I like doing textures like this. I think it's kind of fun. It's a little bit more fun than some other pieces, I think. So it's like an underground grotto kind of thing. I think something like this. And there's going to be a dock in here and a boat eventually. All by... I have to finish this by Friday. Or I want to anyway. So this is where the door is going to be right here. And I just kind of want an approximation of, you know, kind of looking down into a little bit of a cave. I'd actually better use my slightly larger pen for this one, but it's fine. And then I think it kind of comes to an end out here where it's going to empty into the water. So rocks, you know, they have all these little kind of pieces. I take a lot of inspiration from kind of the old Looney Tunes style rocks. I think they do like the Roadrunner, Wile E. Coyote stuff. I think they really do some interesting, very subtle and simple rock shapes that I really enjoy. Sort of looking at that if I need to do a little studying on what this might look like. I use photo references sometimes for the boat map I did last map pack. I used a couple boat reference photos. One of the other map that that's on part of this pack, which I think everyone's going to really like, is a theater. So I looked at a lot of theater layouts, actually, and it was another request for the big score, and I think that turned out. I think that turned out really neat. I think people are really gonna like that. It's a bigger. It's the biggest building I've done so far. Oops, it's a big one. But I think it's a really interesting building in general. So a lot of what I do is a lot of tiny little marks, and I think everything in Duskwall is dirty. There's always this crap dripping off things and kind of stains on everything. So you'll see a lot of this, just like little hatching and dots on everything. I think it breaks up the surface. It's not a lot of white. It helps to differentiate different surfaces a bit, and I think it's just a dirty. To me, Duskwall is a dirty, grimy place. Like kind of London in the past, and so I just put a lot of grime and a lot of grit on stuff. Even for rich people, I think they have just like a lot of just old stuff, and I think that just gets pitted and spilled on, and it's really dirty. It's just a dirty city in my mind. I think they do live kind of in perpetual darkness or something. I don't know. The sun doesn't really ever come out. So I think that adds to that idea that everything's a little bit grimy. I'm sure like mold grows on everything, and so I think the water is on the bottom here and probably stains this because the water there, I don't know if you really want to go swimming in those canals at all. So it kind of stains the bottom here. And, it's dripping down from the top. It's pretty good. And I have a water texture I use. I'll probably drop that in here. It's the cross-hatched water, which was used in the boat map that came out. I've been reusing that big water texture, which I think is in here also. Yeah, so I just kind of hatched out this giant water area, and I just cut around it and multiply it and make it smaller and bigger, and however that's needed. You guys have any questions for me? No? All right. Let's see, we're gonna do the other side here. My girlfriend has said I do tedious art. I do a lot of little tiny lines and things, and I don't disagree with her about that. A lot of this is very kind of tedious work. I do enjoy it, but it's a lot of sort of nuanced, tiny lines. I'm going to just put a bunch of dots here for the next hour, which is fine. I like doing it. A little bit OCD in that way, I think, in my art and the way I make things. Although I wouldn't say it's not messy. It's a lot of calculated dots and divots and pieces here, I think. And I need to put some cracks in it. Cracks are hard to do well, I think. Also, like, kind of putting in these little drip areas here and there. I've been coloring those areas differently from the rest of the map. It kind of helps it pop out. Actually, you can see it in the... I'll switch back over here to Photoshop real quick. Like on the table here, it adds some kind of staining. And again, like everything's dirty. I think just things are dirty in this world, and I think that helps to add a little bit of character. And here you can see it's sort of this grayish pieces, and just it feels more used to me. So I put that in there. It's nice to draw that stuff in there. And, excuse me again. So I hope you can all see that. Again, some sort of water staining on the walls here. Now I might wind up, which it looks, by the way I made this, is probably gonna have to be wider. Maybe a little bigger. I might fill this top and bottom in a little bit actually, so it's more like the ceiling, or it gets darker up here. I started working in pen a long time ago. In sketchbooks, it's, you know, obviously more permanent than pencil and pastel and all that stuff. But I think you kind of just have to make a decision, and that's what it is. You put some lines down, and if it doesn't really work, then oh well. I mean, it's ink. You really can't do much about it. There's no erasing. I guess you can white out, but you know, white out is a very obvious mark that you put down, and I think it just kind of forces you to make decisions. But like I said, this is kind of the process, and I try and draw a lot of the stuff that I need beforehand. You know, the guy for the big score, Mark, I think his name is, he asked me to do this tavern. I was almost done the theater, and so I just started drawing a bunch of little stuff that I thought might be in a tavern, and I used some stuff from old maps. I sort of have a catalog of things that I've already created to save some time. There's certain things like barrels and crates that are just used over and over. That just makes sense to kind of save time on my end, and I know they look good and they're already done, so I'll drop them in. So I'll probably, you know, I'll take this how it's done here. I might add a little more details here and there. Rough it up a little more. But that's basically how I go about making it. I actually might make these edges quite a bit darker here. So I have another. This is a slightly larger one. This is an 05, which becomes almost more like a, you know, like a thick Sharpie marker. But I think I just want to go over here roughly and make some of this a little bit thicker. Especially this top part. Maybe some of these lines here, just to give it a little more variation. It's a little bit bland as it is, I think. Like I said earlier, this is my first cast, so you know, I'm not sure what you guys really want to hear about or see, but kind of just going through the process, how I make things. So I think that's better. It's starting to stand out a little bit more. And then I'll make this darker when I put it into Photoshop. I might just cap these ends off too. Makes it easier in the end. Translate over. Color it. What'll probably happen is I'll find a bunch of little holes in this, and I'll have to go back and fill it in a little bit of black ink in Photoshop. But like I was saying earlier, I go through and you know, he asked me to make a tavern, so I was like, okay, you know, what are the things in a tavern? And he told me to make an equipment room, so I went through and I started, just drawing a bunch of little things. I needed stools, and I needed tables, and here's a drinking barrel, and some more rugs. So I have like 6 or 7 different rugs now, and cooking pot, and mugs, and cups, and food, and stuff like that. So I kind of just went through and a bar. Kind of think about what populates a bar, what kind of equipment people use to hunt ghosts. Go through that and figure out exactly what is going to be in it. And you can see some of my preliminary sketches of how the bar is going to look here. But I've done that with just about every map I've had so far to fill it out. There's some theater seats. Here's the boat. If anybody on here has gotten that, the $10 or $15 level. This is the map overview, the bird's eye view of it, the dock. I'll probably steal this dock to put it inside the thing I was just making. A bunch of the crates are on here, barrels and crates, lockers. This is all the stuff that was sort of in the hold of the ship. I think this is the steering wheel, and so I did a little research on what a ship looks like, and although I'm not really sure the kind of ship that's in the Blades in the Dark world. I know they hunt leviathans, and those are massive ships, and that's not one of them. But that's kind of fun, just figuring out what exactly that world looks like. So I had 3 at some point, I guess. Yay! So I think we're getting on the 50th minute here, and I don't know. If you guys have any questions, let me know. I can see myself catching up in the viewer. But I think that's about it. That's about my my process. And let me just jump back to Photoshop again real quick, and I'll do some more coloring for some of these things. And like I said, this should be done by the end of the week. So if you're not part of the Patreon, you should jump in, and you'll have some pretty cool maps by the end of the week. What I need to do is probably put a table in this room as well, and something for this stuff to sit on. I made some scrolls here, and they should probably be the color of parchment, which is an easy color. Parchment color. Perfect. I guess these could be spells, or I'm not really sure how you do magic in this world. Could be different maps. Maybe these are maps to some treasure hoards or whatnot that are in the Deadlands out there that people go to from here, which would kind of make sense, I guess. All right, well, I hope you guys have enjoyed. I think I'm going to jump off here. I hope you liked seeing how I make the maps for the Blades in the Dark game. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. I hope maybe to do another one next month. We'll see. Hopefully people will watch this later on YouTube. But check out my Patreon, patreon.com/Ryan Dunleavy. And like I said, 2 new maps are coming out this week. There's the theater, the Bridge Theater. It's on a bridge. It's really cool. And the Eel's Arm Tavern with the staging ground with a bunch of weapons. Maybe you want to just rob them of their weapons. I don't know. But thanks again for joining in, and have a good night.